The ProACT Know-How, brought to you by ProACT.
Hi, this is ProACT Sam. Welcome to this live webinar. Today, it would be churlish if we didn't actually mention the coronavirus for expats living and working abroad. So we'll try and do that. I hope the sound and the vision quality is coming through to you. So what, in the context of living and working abroad, what does the coronavirus affect us? I mean, we might all have been thinking with the Hollywood movies we've watched over the last 10 years that the world would end with a zombie vampire overrun of the masses. But, you know, it now appears that a small molecule virus is the thing that the world is going to end. But is it? Well, in today's webinar, I want to talk about history a bit and the opportunity that is presented for us to actually move forward living and working abroad. So we'll start in 1917, the Soviet Revolution, the end of all things in the past for the Romanovs, for the Russian royal family, and into the bright new era. The Soviet empire, the Soviet state, the communist state that was created by the Soviet Revolution lasted for 70 years before it collapsed. And lots of satellite states were created as a result. Not just Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Lithuania, Estonia released back into independent states, but also Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Georgia, Armenia, even Mongolia, you could argue in a way, were released as separate countries, still part of the Russian Commonwealth, but a completely new set of countries operating in a separate way. Some of them, Moldova, Belarus, are still independent countries. Some have joined the European Union. But to move forward, the Russian people found a new way forward. And that was about 70 years. So what about the people that predicted the end and the doom of gloom of the UK with Brexit? Well, the counter argument was that the EU could be about to end, and that very much seems to be a big question mark now. The EU is 70 years old in 2021, and could the coronavirus be the opportunity to bring the EU down? Is the EU under a crisis now, losing the revenue and the input of the fifth largest economy in the world, the UK, from its coffers, and be able to sustain under the onslaught of the coronavirus, where now we're seeing that the open borders, the cross borders are all being closed. Flights across the EU are being cancelled, the same as flights around the world are being cancelled. The distinction for expats living and working abroad in the EU is being removed, and it's being created, and they're being treated exactly like global expats relocating from the USA to the Middle East, or from South Africa to Cyprus, or from the UK to Hong Kong. And this has all happened within a couple of weeks of panic in the EU, as the coronavirus and Europe has become the epicenter of that. Now, I'm a bit of a cynic on these things because what they know about how many corona cases there are is only what they've tested. What they've not tested, they don't know how many cases there are. So, you know, they don't know how this disease will unfold because it is a brand new virus. What we do know is not killing 80% of the people who get it. It's killing about 3% of the people that are diagnosed or tested positive. That's still a lot of people, and we need to react and change the way we're working and living our lives to protect people from that. But whether it becomes a seasonal flu, or whether it becomes something more akin to an Ebola or a black plague that we had in the Middle Ages, that's still yet to see. Nobody can do that. There's two ways of creating a virus. the virus could be created by the big medic firms, and they've got a big opportunity to do a lot of research and get paid a lot of money to create a vaccine that's tested and available for the public around the world, and they can vaccinate everybody next winter and the winter after, and the medical firms will make a lot of money. The other way to get an immunity is to catch the disease, a bit like the measles parties that you may have had as a child, mumps and measles, get it early as a child, and then you didn't get it nastily when you're older, even though it was nasty even as a child. So the different ways to get it, so if the herd mentality being talked about is that if everybody has generally got it, then there's immunity in society and we can all effectively remain safe. But that's an aside. What we're trying to point out is that there's an opportunity there for the medical firms to make a lot of money, and so that's all very interesting. So, but what about another big significant social change in history? The first car was patented in 1885, and that was a Mercedes. And no, it wasn't Mercedes. It was patented by Carl Benz. Carl Benz created the Mercedes brand in the end, but that was a later car named after his daughter. But the Daimler-Benz was the first big car that was patented in 1885. The first mass-produced car, though, didn't come into production until 1908, nearly 30 years later, by Henry Ford, the Ford Model T. So in 1908, that was when the first, what we would recognise as a car for the masses was available. And quickly, how quickly did that take over and change society? We don't know, if you didn't live at that time, what the world was like before that. But if you look at the 1925 Act for the estates written in England, it describes what Shuttles are. And that legislation from 1925 is still the basis of will and estate and trust planning in British law and English law in the UK and around the world. And the description of Shuttles in the first line includes somebody's saddle and bridle wear. In 1925, still at that time, or certainly it may have been on the wane, but owning a horse was the thing that everybody did as a mode of transport, not owning a car. Of course, not everybody could afford a horse, the same as not everybody could afford a car. But owning a horse was the primary method of transport. And if you're travelling long distances, your key asset was actually owning the saddle and bridle, and that was therefore a big enough asset for people that it was actually described as an independent chattel to define chattels under English law in 1925. But actually, by 1930, were people, even by 1925, was the horse the modus operandi? Was it the main way that people were getting down? As we saw, the late 19th and early 20th century, there's mass industrialization, and there's a big industrial revolution, and mass-produced cars, as well as ships and boats and lorries, and devices for the home, TVs came along, and changed. This industrialization was the new wealth. Telephones appeared, and this industrialization created new businesses and new industries that meant that society carried on. They still travelled around the world, they still travelled around the country, they still travelled around the town, but instead of using a horse and maybe a cart, they were using a motor car. I once had a look at a document from the 16th century. It was an old book that I found in a second-hand shop, and it was a stagecoach timetable. So there's in the 16th, 17th century, they were producing a national directory of Stagecoach times, because the stagecoaches ran from Stagecoach Inn to Stagecoach Inn. So people that wanted to do long distance journeys didn't go by train, didn't go by bus, didn't go by car, they went by stagecoach, and the stagecoach would go to the next stagecoach, which would then change horses and move on to the next place or stay overnight. And this is where the network of public houses and inns across Europe and in the UK happened. And still in the UK, and generally, the bus stops that replace the stagecoach service, they still have their stage phases, so that it costs so much to go from stage to stage on the stagecoach, and then there'll be a price to go on to the next leg of the journey. That's how the stagecoach inns and the inns worked, that they also provided a swapping of the horses for the stagecoaches to move along. So, history has changed quite a lot now. We have timetables for buses, which we get on the internet. We have timetable for trains, which we get on the internet. And it's not the same as producing a book for the national timetable for stagecoach delivery, but the system is exactly the same. And so there was an opportunity moving from a stagecoach, horse-drawn carriages, to moving to coaches and trains and buses. These things created opportunities for new wealth, for people to build those trains, build those buses, and for people to move between towns and to industrialise and make more money in a different economy, and the world moved on, a world of opportunity and change. So we've seen over the last 150 years lots of opportunity coming from political change in the Soviet Union and the EU and the world wars, and from economic change through technology replacing and industrialization replacing land. And then in the 80s and 90s, the internet came along and created new wealth and new businesses that wiped out some of the old businesses. So the retail high street struggle that we see today is because of online shopping from the internet. So internet millionaires have got very rich, not because they're necessarily that clever or they're doing anything that different. The stagecoach service with the horse and carriage from the past is the same today with the buses that are driving around. The internet is doing the same job, but in a different way to the old ways. So you don't post a letter now, you send an email. You don't have a meeting with somebody. You talk to them on FaceTime, on WhatsApp, or some other method to do the voice conversation. You don't use the voice telephone of Alexander Graham Bell. He produced his first phone, tried to sell that business to Western Union. They turned him down because he said it was a ridiculous price to buy a telephone for 100,000. So he created AT&T, one of the biggest telephone companies in America and the world. So, but the voice telephone has been replaced. In 2007 was the first Apple iPhone. And now everybody has a lot of people have a smartphone type of device, and a smartphone is a computer. Those of you who watch Star Trek, where the people had their wrist phones where they could talk and have a video conversation and send messages, that's what your phone is, or your mobile watch. So there's been opportunities created by the mobile phone revolution introduced in 2007. And this is what coronavirus is. It brings about radical change. It might lead to political change in the EU. It might lead to economic change in the way we're doing business, but we already saw the high street dying because everything's going online. So what happened in the first week of the big slowdown in the UK The UK supermarket chain, not the biggest, in the top 5, but not the biggest, Morrison, announced 3,500 new jobs. So when everybody is panicking, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be sick and have to stay at home for 3 months and do nothing? No, you're not. There's opportunities out there. So why could Morrison suddenly announce 3,500 new jobs in the week of the biggest devastating crisis ever to hit mankind since the last one, since Brexit, since the Soviet Revolution, since the First World War, since the Second World War, since the Australian bushfires at the start of the year were going to consume the whole world, since the plastic was going to, choke everybody to death. Why have Morrison's got an opportunity? Well, they've had for a few years an opportunity with an outside investor, and in 2019 they signed a new agreement with an American company to do super fast home delivery, and that company is Amazon. So where are they getting their funding from? They're not waiting for a government bailout, they're not waiting for government social security, they're not waiting for a bank to give it a guaranteed bank loan. An innovative, forward-looking business like Amazon have said, we are committed to super fast food delivery. Food delivery is going to take off now. People have got to socially isolate, and this is going to change the world. It's going to change the way people do business. Amazon already predicted this, and this was the way they were going, that there's not a supermarket in every street and district, but there's a supermarket, a regional supermarket where you can go in and buy your stuff if you want a day out. But actually, I'm going to start looking at the camera now, actually most people just phone it and order it online. The supermarkets have known for 20 years, they have algorithms that manage their shops. They know what people are going to buy. And every individual is the same. If you think about it, you go to the shop to order the same food every week, to buy the same food every week. Why can't you just order it and have it delivered? So that is the opportunity for an online retailer like Ocado, like Amazon, like Morrison's. So Morrison's, although they're not as big as a Sainsbury's or an Asda, a Tesco in the UK, suddenly they're creating jobs and opportunities for people. So your company may be laying you off because it's a Stagecoach, and Stagecoach is going out of fashion. They can be replaced by new technology. The new technology is online. If everybody has to work from home, then that is the opportunity to find a new way forward, to do super fast home delivery, and look how that will change. Countries that are behind the curve in terms of going online, like Cyprus, will be forced to rethink the way they do things. Countries that are ahead of the curve working online, like the UK, have got a great opportunity to enforce compliance now. Whereas rather than holding on to a system where it's half paper and it's half online, it's half meetings face to face and it's half meetings online, we have to work online now. We want to stay safe for our families, our communities, our business. So let's take advantage of the opportunities that are presented for us to move forward with our business and our lifestyle. And that impacts on living and working abroad as well. The first modern day passport was only introduced in 1914 at the outbreak of the First World War. Before that, you could travel around Europe without passports. The border issue was not relevant. Possibly one of the most significant men in British history, Thomas Cromwell, he learnt his trade, bookkeeping, in Florence, Italy, before he came back to work for Henry VIII and Cardinal Wolsey in the UK. So, people travelled around Europe to live and work as expats many years ago for different reasons. The passport is relatively new. The border is relatively new. It's only something that's been around for the last 100 years. The EU was supposed to create this open market, free market for people to live and work in. Coronavirus comes along and those borders are being shut. The regulations are being imposed, flights are being reduced, both from a commercial point of view and from a regulatory point of view. So, you can't, the people, the expats living and working in the EU are now being treated like expats living and working around the world. It's still possible to live and work around the world, but the rules have changed. The rules changed with Brexit, and now the rules are changing with coronavirus. Freedom of movement is a relative thing depending upon the rules that the government or society impose upon us. So there's always change. Things will be the same, but they will be different. There won't be stagecoaches anymore, there'll be buses. There won't be attending meetings. The work will be done online. And it's about adapting to those that will help us move forward. Some of them will force individuals to adapt to the new way of doing things. Other businesses will either adapt to the new online way or to or be offline. And this is the opportunity that we've got before us now. So what a wonderful time to be alive. And it's a great opportunity at ProACT because we are a fully online business already. We can do all our business online. The only thing that we don't do online is where we have to produce paper, to deliver paper to an old world organisation in the UK. So signing documents online, creating documents online, storage them, online meetings, conversations, all of these things that we can do, and we're geared up to that. The thing that held us back is that we always had the option to do paper or online. Well, that's gone now, so we're going fully online straight away. We're happy to meet with you. We're happy to talk to our clients face to face. Obviously we respect the law at every point of view, and we're not going to risk anybody's health or status. But as an online business, we can still serve our clients and develop a way forward. So what are the opportunities for expats living and working abroad? Tax returns still need to be done. Now there's some dates to roll back and to adjustments. I'm not talking about payroll and social security benefits for people. I'm talking about the fact that the tax returns and the taxes still need to be paid. So there'll be new changes, there'll be concessions that are coming in. So how do those need to be managed? So we can still carry on that work. And how we work with our clients is that we primarily use Apple FaceTime or WhatsApp as a secure encrypted telephone audio system or video. We prefer audio because it uses less bandwidth and improves the quality of the call and less likely to drop it. But you know, we can use a video one if you want to do that as well. But the tax returns will still need to be done, and we can do those. So by emailing us documents, using your smartphone to create images, so you don't need a scanner or a fax. Faxes are so 2009, you know, you don't need a fax, you don't need a printer or a scanner. You can use your smartphone to take your picture and share that with us, so we've got the documents that we need. You can post them if you want to do that as well, or you can hand deliver them. But you know, we need an image of that. If you actually, there are ways to use a phone if you've got the right technology that you could actually get software that does better than just taking photos of everything. To scan documents and create images like that. So the scanner that's in a fax, an old-fashioned fax, you can get that software as an app downloaded onto your mobile phone and scan documents that way as well. For businesses, they now need to reorganise. Businesses need to reorganise to stay alive. A Stagecoach Inn, 200 years ago was a wonderful place to be. It had lots of regular trade arriving from the stagecoaches. Once the stagecoach stops and the motor bus runs straight the way through and there's no horses to keep and revenue to earn from that, the stagecoach can go out of business, or it can become a pub. the world changes. So how are you going to deal with that situation? So businesses need to reorganize and not to stay the same. So what is the future for your business? How can you adapt your business to be online? So, we have got the expertise and we can provide this consultancy to businesses at how to develop their web offering, but not just to promote and sell their services, but also to administer and operate their business, to collect information from clients and to operate across border to run their business profitably and efficiently, cutting costs along the way. Asset protection is still a big issue for clients. Now, if you own property overseas or businesses, protecting those assets using corporations or trusts is a very viable way to avoid the cost and delay of cross-border probate or care home fees if long-term care is needed. So by creating and putting the family's wealth and assets inside a secure, protected environment which the family can control, then we can save tax and money in the long term. So the coronavirus is a fantastic online opportunity. The world will go on after the short holiday break that people will go through. So what do we do next? Well, there's lots of opportunities to do next. We need to stay safe and healthy. We've got a new virus on the block. We don't know whether it's another seasonal flu or whether it's something as deadly as a vampire zombie apocalypse. But we can look after ourselves and take care of ourselves. But if you want help to develop your business reorganization, get your tax returns and your business reporting up to date, or protecting your assets against the cost and delay of probate and business, then we're here and still operating to do that. We've got people working in the UK, Germany and Cyprus to provide services across the globe and around the world. And we relish the opportunity, and if you want to share some of that positivity, just contact us at proactpartnership.com. Look through our website. We've got lots of information on healthcare cross-border, on how business operates cross-border and how you can protect assets cross-border. And we're here if you want to talk to one of our consultants online, free reviews. Just contact us and we'll set that up in the next week or so. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy your long weekend, but then you get back to seizing the opportunities in front of you that for change and for development, and that your business and your family's future can be the future and not the past. Horses still are around, people still have saddles, but they're not the thing that they once were. They're a hobby interest. So where is your business and your family living and working abroad going forward? Talk to us about ways to develop and grow in this and take advantage of the online opportunities ahead. We'll speak to you again next time. Thank you.
The ProACT Know-How, brought to you by ProACT.